I was a student here at UCLA many decades ago, I learned everything that I could about the politics of education. At the time, I didn't know that I would end up becoming a superintendent of schools. Once I became a superintendent, I realized that in addition to everything that I knew about politics, I needed to learn something about assessment. And so I turned to Crest and to Lynn Winters to come to Long Beach to help us with that issue. And a lot of cases have been written about Long Beach. I don't think they've done justice to the role that Lynn and the Crest Center played in doing something that you rarely see in an urban school district. They made assessment teacher and principal friendly. Most of the time, assessment and accountability is seen as nails on a chalkboard. They actually came in and made it work. So, Lynn, thank you. Crest, thank you. I am going to confine my remarks to the Gordon Commission's recommendations in the realm of state collaboration and policy, wearing my state board hat. I also wear some smaller hats. One of them is chair of the ACT board in Iowa City, and the other is co-chair with Lorraine McDonald of the independent evaluation of the DC public schools for the NRC. So, for me, this first recommendation that states create a permanent council on educational assessments modeled on the Education Commission of the state with some of the following functions. The first one is absolutely on point. Evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the Smarter Balanced and Park Assessment Consortium. I say that for 2 meetings in a row at the state board in my own sort of contrarian manner. I've been raising the issue of who are these whiteboard insiders and why are they saying horrible things about both Smarter Balanced and Park? And when you look at the website, you just see all kinds of things that give you pause. As many predicted, quote, this is turning out to be one of the greatest boondoggles of all time. It's the beginning of the end for both. States are going to start running for the door. Too many reasons to get out. Putting on my ACT board chair hat, we have this partnership with Pearson that just picked off the state of Alabama. So rather than using Smarter Balance or Park, they're going to use what we're calling Aspire, our next generation assessment for grades 3 through 8. After 2 months in a row of kind of raising this issue of don't sugarcoat it, what are the strengths and weaknesses of these consortia, someone actually pointed me to a paper by Joan Herman and Bob Lynn on the road to assessing deeper learning, the status of Smarter Balance and Park Assessment Consortium. I thought it was excellent, and it gave me sort of a sense, much more so than the Whiteboard Insider website, of strengths and weaknesses and the big challenges that they are in fact facing. The second recommendation is conduct research on how assessments are changing, help inform states. I think we need to get after that. I also think that the issue of overseeing the process of setting cross-state performance level targets, yes, that's important. I want to know more about what's going on in other states. Whenever I'm outside of Sacramento, I do not hear, hey, this is great, everything's going well. I'm told that there are states that are further along on computer testing. California is a huge state. We educate 6 million kids, we're incredibly diverse, and so the issue of comparisons across states becomes incredibly important. Now, a public education campaign targeting parents, educators, school board members, and the media. This also, I think, is very important. One of the things that the Clark Foundation did back in the 90s to help Long Beach as we not only rolled out our standards, but tried new assessments, they actually came in with some communication strategists who did a fine job of actually helping us with how do you explain this? And a lot of this is lost on parents. And one of the things I used to talk about was, folks, we have to be able to reduce this to kitchen table talk, or we really can't use it. And I used to single out for abuse the term scaffolding. I used to say, unless you're actually talking about painters and jobs that actually use real world things called scaffolding, let's come up with a kitchen table talk word that can do that. So the idea of communication is very important. A lot of these other things are really lost on people. Putting on my ACT hat briefly, there was a story about 100 kids in Georgia who showed up to take the ACT test, and there was no one there to give them the test. That's what ordinary folks really understand. That is a major screw-up that will cost you a lot. Fortunately, the initial media reports blamed the College Board for this. What do you do with that? Create a study group on the challenges of equitable assessment to explore issues related to diversity, equity, and excellence. This is obvious, and this is incredibly important. The fifth recommendation was commission research on policies designed to secure the privacy of assessment data. Again, this looks obvious, but I want to point you to a paper by Lorraine McDonald in 1997, where she really looked at what happened with class. This is, you might know, the 20th anniversary of this state's administration of class. And Lorraine McDonald, in her 1997 paper for Crest, entitled The Politics of State Testing, Implementing New Student Assessments, she talked about how groups in opposition to this, they make stuff up. They go after things in ways that you can't anticipate, and thinking that everyone's going to behave like some sort of rational actor isn't the best way to look at this. One of the things that they did very successfully was to make implications that all of this information was going to be used against parents, families, that sort of thing. I think when you look at this issue, you've got to be prepared for a real battle. And that's why I would argue that not only knowing everything about assessment, but also fully understanding the politics of this becomes very important. I was in Michigan last week. Already, the Governor Snyder's state senate has withdrawn funding for Common Core, so the mischief is starting. And whenever I've asked the question about what about class and how are you making sure we're not going to have the same type of debacle, people seem to answer that you're going to be somehow protected by the fact that you're in league with 20 other states. I would argue, really? Is that the way politics works? That if groups in California don't like what we're doing, we're going to end up saying, well, you know, Scott Walker and Rick Snyder made the same foolish mistake. I do not think that the governors of Wisconsin and Michigan can provide cover for us. And what I mean is, we are going to have to be prepared, in my judgment, to go to war, to do battle, if we think that this is really important. Finally, my third hat is the co-chair with Lorraine McDonald of the NRC look at the DC public schools. And we're finding that we're spending a lot of our time on the quality of cheating investigations. What are the standards? And so I guess one question that I have for the Gordon Commission is, what will the cheating of the future look like? I think I've said enough for now. Thank you.